She had the helmet on, her leg draped over his machine, and the sound and the feel of the engine was almost intoxicating to the point that she felt drunk power. She revved the engine and could feel the vibrations go all the way through her crotch. It was then that she saw why women climbed on the back of men's motorcycles. She'd never been into guys with bikes, but could now see why there was such a fascination with them. She could admit that she was excited by this new chapter in her life and didn't mind that her libido was vibrating off the charts. It wasn't her first time on a bike, because her cousin had shown her how to ride when she was just 15 years old. She thought that he was secretly in love with her, but nothing ever happened. She forgot how much she liked it and was finding that this new life really did appeal to her. Scandal was her new name, and she was going to become a legend in her own mind and in the mind of those she was trying to impress. She knew where the road warriors hung out, and it was a bar on the outskirts of town with no signage to speak of. Nobody ventured out that far, and even the police had given it a wide berth because they really didn't want to get involved in their business. Anybody that did usually found themselves on the receiving end of being face down in the river. Scandal didn't really want to be just another statistic, and she was still amazed that she was able to think of herself as this person. It was like she was a second part of herself, as if a skin was draped over the one that she was wearing before all of this began. The feeling was euphoric, and racing down the highway at 100 miles an hour was too exhilarating to pass up. It was part of her plan, and she heard the sirens and felt the long arm of the law bearing down on her. If she could have, she would have felt their hot breath on the back of her neck, but she wasn't about to look back and show any kind of fear in the face of authority. It wasn't long before she was being shadowed by 3 police cars, all blaring their sirens and yelling for her to pull over immediately. She didn't even slow down, and instead sped up to make them back away because it was going to be too dangerous for the public for them to continue the pursuit. They would obviously call ahead to headquarters, get themselves a helicopter, and have her followed from above. "I told you to pull over that bike and get off with your hands above your head, interlocked between your fingers." The blaring sirens were a pale comparison to the bullhorn that was now reaching her ears. "Don't make us use extreme force, but we will if you force us to." She knew exactly the reason why they were getting antsy, but then the chase ceased, and the only thing that was left was the helicopter that was shining the spotlight. It had her in the brights of its glare, and it had no intention of letting go, sending back the information to the police department that she was getting closer and closer to the road warriors' hideout. She sped down the asphalt, lifting the frame to do a wheelie, while at the same time yelling at the top of her lungs. To most, she would look like a crazy person, but stenciled across her jacket was the name Road Warriors. She purposely got this jacket made up, but it really didn't signify the true meaning of those words. Only those that were honored to have that on their jackets were allowed into the recesses of the club. Even if it didn't look legit, the name was very prevalent, and if anybody seen it, they would know that she was part of that group. Scandal knew exactly what she was doing, and leading them on a wild goose chase was part of her plan. They would see the jacket, the emblem on the back end, and want to make an example out of her to the others in the gang. It would show that they were not afraid to go after one of them, but if she were able to reach the hideout, she'd be safe from prosecution. They would never want to go head-to-head with the entire gang, and taking one on was more favorable than the whole lot. Scandal felt like she was riding a high, and she saw the lights up ahead and thought for sure that she was in the clear. Unfortunately, the police have cordoned off the street and were now standing with shotguns at the ready to stop her by any means necessary. She had a contingency for that, and had called for reinforcements of her own. The thundering roar coming down the street from behind the police officers caught their attention, and they turned just in time to see a medley of Harleys being ridden by road warriors coming to the rescue of one of their own. Scandal had sent out a message using a black band on her cell phone. It was something that she had found during her research, and under the guise of a sympathizer to their cause, she was able to garner the correct frequency to call for help. She stood on the brakes, squealing to a stop with her back tire in the air. She came to a stop and stayed there completely still, looking at the police officers, and then over at the medley of bikers that had come riding from out of the sunset. That wasn't literally, because it was after midnight, and the moon was the only real light in the area.